Hey, I'd like to welcome you to another episode of Mission Matters. My name is Adam Torres, and if you'd like to apply to be a guest in the show, just head on over to missionmatters.com and click on Be Our Guest to Apply. All right, so the wait is over. The book is out. I'm so excited to welcome back to the show Joseph Catania, founder and CEO of Catania Media Consultants. Joe, first off, welcome back to the show, man. I'm so excited to talk about the new book.
Right. Well, thanks, Adam. I appreciate it. It's always an honor to be on your show, of course. And I guess we have a lot to talk about today.
Oh, yes, sir, we do. I'll tell you, getting out there, promoting the book and doing what we do. That's my favorite part of my day. We'll definitely take a deep dive into your writing. And also for the viewers that weren't able to catch the first episode that Joe and I did with each other, we're going to put all that information in the show notes so you can check it out as well. But we'll spend a lot of time on Joe's writing today. And of course, we want to get to know more about Catania Media Consultants. But we'll start this episode the way that we start them all with our Mission Matters Minute. So, Joe, we at Mission Matters, we amplify stories for entrepreneurs, executives, and experts. That's our mission. Joe, what mission matters to you?
Well, I got a nice little niche going here. My goal, my mission is to help medical clinics, medical companies, and law firms grow their business. And once again, they're professional associations. The folks that became doctors or lawyers, didn't take an advertising and marketing class, in law school. So they need a lot of help. I've done it for a long time and been doing it. And that's why I started the media company back in 2019, is to help these companies because they're in dire help. And they're always looking to find somebody who understands the law business or the medical business and can grow their company exponentially.
Great to have you back in the show. I want to spend a moment or two especially for the listeners that didn't catch the first episode, to maybe tell us a little bit more about your background and how you got started.
Well, currently I'm the chief financial officer of Catania Law Firm and have been for the last 20 years. And, along with that, I was also the marketing director of the company. And back in the day, I cut my teeth on, traditional media like TV, radio, billboards, and that kind of thing. And then back in the mid 2000s, around 2007, 2008, the digital world came upon us and I had to learn a whole new field. And now it's all about integrated marketing, starting with the digital footprint, having that website being optimized. And then if you have deep enough pockets, you also have traditional media like TV or radio help you drive business, to your website or to Google My Business and that kind of thing.
I like that you've been around the industry and involved with the industry for so long. So as you mentioned, cutting your teeth with things like billboards, radio, prior to even digital, and then obviously your transition and success in digital as well. The reason I bring this up is there's, a lot of people going through transition right now. So meaning whether just for context for everybody that's watching this, we're recording this in 2022 and, a lot of changes going on. So whether it's now the idea of maybe we used to all meet face to face for every appointment and maybe virtual is like not necessarily our comfort zone, or there's a lot of different change going on. And for those that adapt, maybe they'll be, they have the potential to win big. For those that don't, unfortunately, maybe they don't do as well. What would you tell to those that are having been through many different adaptations, whether it's digital, advertising, or otherwise? What would you tell some of those entrepreneurs that are out there right now in the middle of their own transitions? What kind of advice would you give them?
Right. Well, I would say in terms of businesses, correct? Is that
yes.
What we're Yeah. I think in this day and age, if you don't have a great website, I don't mean something looks pretty, because if it does, that's a plus. But something that's easy for a potential client or customer to navigate, one that's married to Google in terms of optimization. Because these days, Google is the old telephone book. When people have questions or need to find somebody, where do they go? And they go to Google. So you need to be optimized. So if someone's looking for your law firm, say they're looking for a personal injury law firm in Florida, they'll be able to find you. And hopefully, if the digital marketer is doing a good job, your company will be up there at the top, one of the top three, if possible. And that's the goal, I think. That's the basis to get started. And beyond that, there's, of course, a whole slew of digital strategies you can do to enhance that as well.
I want to jump around a little bit here. Got to get into the book. So you're writing in the book. Don't do it by yourself. And when I first read the manuscript and I saw this, I'm like, I can, I'll pick on myself here as we get further along in the interview. But I was like, oh, made that mistake. Oh, did that. Oh, don't want to do that one in the future.
Right.
What inspired the writing? What inspired your writing in this?
Well, everybody's got a story, and I was with the law firm for a long time. kind of moved from the stock brokerage business into the law firm business. And it was kind of a transition there. But, I noticed when I was a stockbroker and got into management back in the 90s, and also when I became, the CFO and marketing director, I realized that you can't do it by yourself. It's too big of an operation. And maybe in the early days, if you're a startup, you got to do maintenance, you got to empty the garbage pails, you got to do IT. I mean, the list goes on, but eventually as you grow, you start delegating that work. So when I started with the law firm back in the early 2000s, it's only about 3 attorneys, maybe a staff of less than 10. And the goal was to grow it exponentially over the next 10 years. So we went from like 3 attorneys to like 10, and we went from, maybe 5 employees to 35. And it was mainly through advertising and marketing the firm, getting the word out, that helped us grow the business. And because of my success in helping grow that business to one of probably the most, I would say, reputable, one of the largest firms in the Tampa Bay area, I decided, okay, if I've done it for myself, I could do it for other people as well. Yeah. And that's what inspired me to launch Catania Media Consultants back in 2019.
I love it. It's like, as an entrepreneur, when you figure something out for yourself, if you can then, you've been blessed to have had that experience. If you can then turn that around and figure out a way to be a blessing to others and to help others, I mean, I think it's great. And we all win from that overall. So I think it's a great tool and a great experience that you've taken, or a great way that you've used your experience as a tool to help others. So diving a little bit further, and when you said, you can't do it by yourself, right? You have to involve other individuals. I can tell you, like, earlier on in my career as an entrepreneur, like, I didn't quite get that. I think I had some of those like control, like it has to be done this way or that way. It was only until I started getting more people involved and getting more ideas and new ideas that things really started to grow. What do you find sometimes holds back entrepreneurs on their journey from like hitting that next level, that proverbial level, like whatever that is for them? What are some of the things that you feel holds them back?
Well, I would use my experience with the law firm as the best example. When I got in there, it was very small. The owners wanted a 10-year plan to grow it substantially. And so I had to come up with a business plan. First of all, you need a plan, a business plan.
Yeah.
You need a way to navigate where you're going to go, where you want to end up. From there, you want to you need the right people to help you out. And that goes back to my title, don't do it all by yourself. Yeah. So in terms of law firm, I hired a seasoned paralegal that would help me hire and train the paralegals. I made sure that in the intake department, because in personal injury, you're getting calls all day, and you need folks that are going to be sympathetic. These people have been in accidents or gotten hurt, understand the nuances of, for example, motor vehicle accidents, and how to, talk to the client intelligently, potential client, I should say, and ultimately close it and make them understand that after telling them the features and benefits, why they should sign up with you. So having an intake manager to train these people and supervise them is very important. That was number 2. And then number 3 was also to have a good bookkeeper, someone who could, take care of accounts payable, receivable, manage cash flow, and so on and so forth. So by having those 3 people under my belt, and getting them installed in that first year was crucial, because then I was able to move forward with my plan, my business plan. And I'm more of a visionary. So once I get those people in place, they really do most of the day-to-day work, most of the heavy lifting, so to speak. I kind of oversee them and let them help me run the business. And it worked out pretty well. And eventually, of course, more calls came in. So we had to hire more people in intake. And then eventually we had more cases. So we had to hire more paralegals. Good problem to have. And just grew from there. Now, nothing was perfect. I mean, sometimes it's hard to gauge your growth and how quickly you're growing. And there were a few times that we probably grew too quickly. We maybe hired too many people too quickly. And sometimes you have to slow down, take a deep breath, pull back a little bit, and reassess, and then eventually move forward again. But luckily, that business in particular is recession-proof. People are always going to get hurt, whether it be medical malpractice, whether it be motor vehicle accidents, whether it be nursing home neglect. Someone's always going to get hurt. Yeah, I mean, that's it, basically. And then from there, we hired more people, and we made sure that these people were considered valuable employees and let them know it. I mean, there was training, there was team meetings, there was outings, there were incentives in terms of bonuses, because there's not a lot of talent out there. In order to find talent and hold on to talent, you got to pay a premium for that, because, your business and its growth is only as good as not only your management underneath you, but also the staff that works underneath them.
And you mentioned this in the book. So you write about like how to find the right people. And so let's stick on that point a little bit longer. Like, tell us a little bit more of your secret sauce.
Right. So finding the right people is really hard. As I said, the talent pool out there isn't all that great. And what you want to try to do is find A employees. They're not a dime a dozen, but at least B employees that can be uptrained, to become A players. Sometimes you might find a C plus employee that you can train up to a B. So that's the whole idea over a period of time, is weed out of all the C and D, players, or I should say employees, and then try to hire B and A employees and see if you can train some of the lesser employees. But a lot of times you put an ad out, but I think most often we work through recruiters and they did the initial training, I should say interviewing, not training, interviewing. And so by the time they got to us, they all had all the basics under their belt. Experience, knowledgeable, good work ethic. You can have all that stuff, but you don't really like to work. That's going to show up too. So by the time they got in front of us, they were heavily screened, and it made our job a lot easier. So I would say anybody who's looking to find good people, certainly put ads out there. You never know who's going to answer one. If you can work with a recruiting company, they're going to do a lot of the heavy lifting for you and make your job a lot easier.
You also mentioned the idea of having a plan in the book, specifically a 6-month plan. What does that look like? Like, what does that plan look like?
We actually have 2 plans. One was the 10-year plan for the entire business and its future growth. The other is a 6-month plan that pertains to employees. Because once you go through the hiring process and once you make that decision to hire somebody, then they go on like 90-day probation. And if they make it beyond that, after 6 months, you have basically an assessment of that person's work product over that 6 months. And by then, or through that period, training them. We're having team meetings to get them excited about the firm and the business they're in. Maybe more importantly, because a lot of the business involves talking to people, interfacing with people. It's all very important to have a bubbly personality, sympathetic, energetic, and we kind of listen to phone calls and we heard what people were doing, and they're doing fine. We let them go. If they needed some work, we would work with them to see if we can up-train them. Yeah. And then after 6 months, if they're we can check all the boxes, we'll probably give them some kind of promotion, monetary incentives, and they could be part of the building blocks going forward. If that person doesn't fit that mold, then we'll probably just part as friends. But in the beginning you've got to wean people out and get your staff and your management in place. That's probably the best way to do it, in my opinion.
You mentioned in the early days, maybe hiring a little bit too many too soon, or I feel for entrepreneurs out there, like that's always a tricky thing. Like when do you scale, especially if you're not, well-funded or something else, and you're thinking about like, when do you scale? Because every bit that you spend is kind of like, you got to be real careful in the beginning. How do you navigate that?
Well, you got to be obviously in tune with the nuances of your business. I think just when you start to get more calls and you start to sign up, I'm using the law firm as an example. You start to get more calls and you start to open up more cases, and the paralegals then have to take on much bigger loads. You then say, okay, we're growing. This was our sales this month. This is our sales last month. This is our sales a year ago. And we can see the growth rate and try to project out. And then you start hiring a few more people, for intake. You may hire a few more paralegals. And you kind of sit back and see how that works and see if the workload can be completed with the additional hirees. But if not, you continue to add more. Sometimes you don't know. And sometimes, some months are great. Some months are not, because you settle some big cases, you're going to have a banner month. Sometimes you don't, you have a slower month. So things kind of, over a period of time, just kind of level off. But sometimes you get too far ahead of yourself and it's not reality, and you've hired too many people, then you've got to either let people go or you've got to furlough people and kind of pull back, digest what you did, and then eventually take a breather, deep breath, and then move forward again. I think almost every business kind of goes through something similar, because it's not just a magic carpet ride to the top. You're going to have some, what I call speed bumps.
Absolutely. And then you also have maybe some unexpected external events, right, that you have no control over, like a pandemic or all these other things that can happen that maybe depending on your business, you're in the market that you're working on, as you mentioned, a little bit of a recession-proof type business, but for others, that's not the case, right? So,
I always thought it was. And we've been through, various recessions over the years, 9/11, 2008 and 9, real estate, financial crisis, and we really didn't feel it. But when this pandemic hit back in the spring of 2020, okay, well, we'll get through this one too, no problem. But then they had the lockdowns.
Yeah.
Remember, I didn't even think about it, because a lot of our business is motor vehicle accidents.
Yeah.
And so I'm getting on the interstate in the morning on the first day of lockdown. I'm saying, where are all the cars?
Oh, yeah.
Also, I started to panic in my head. I'm saying, that's what we depend on. Because our infrastructure down here is always behind. The state's growing so quickly. Our infrastructure is always behind. And there's no mass transit. And so the snowbirds come down, the vacationers come down, the roads get overloaded. And of course, there's a certain number of car accidents, but nobody was on the road.
Wow.
So that was kind of a scary thing. So we had to pare back. We had to, and there's a situation where you have to lay off some of the maybe C players that you want, they're not going to hang in that much longer. Everybody had to maybe cut back a little bit in certain ways to get through it and find out how this is going to work out.
Yeah.
But what was a big thing for us and for probably many businesses are the PPP loans. And they came in handy and got us through the lockout. And then, or should I say lockdown. And then after that, things started to pick back up slowly and surely. And, right now we're at full capacity. We're probably, roads are probably busier than they were. But there was a scary time where, no one could, that's the famous Black Swan event. Something that you never predict what happened. And the day I got on the interstate, I said, "Oh my God, here we go. We got to come up with a plan. Never had this go on before." And so you deal with it. And so, and part of it's money management because you make sure that you have money put aside for a rainy day or something that you can never see happen. And so if it happens, you're not totally freaking out and selling the house, a week or two later, and you get through it. So it all worked out. We did well, and we'll come back stronger than ever. But that's what to do with good owners, good management, and good staff underneath you, keeping an engine running.
Yeah, and when I think about it on our end, I still have chills. We were just looking at expanding and thinking about like office space and some other things for Mission Matters right before the pandemic. And I'm like, I'm glad that was not a number one priority item at that time. So we were like passively, but working towards it because, man, that would have hurt.
Let me tell you, the timing was unbelievable. That's when, right around that time, I started Catania Media Consultants. What a time to launch your business. And I started actually December of the previous year. By the time I got my website up and my social media sites up, it was into February. All of a sudden you hear about this pandemic, and before you know it, next month following on, it's in your backyard, and they're calling for a lockdown. Yeah. So needless to say, 2020 wasn't a great year for me in the launch of that business. Now, I did eventually later on in the year open up some accounts and got things going, but it wasn't a good full year of business. But luckily the following year it started to pick up, and now it's moving along very well. You just got to hang in there. Really?
Absolutely. That's what I say. You do have to hang in there and weather the storm and just understand that, whether it's depending on your age, when you're whoever's watching this, whether it's, 2008, 2002, before that, the 80s, 70s. It just depends how long you've been in business. Right. But there's always something that's going to happen and come up. And I like that you actually addressed it in your writing. And that's really mistakes are part of the process. So when I think about the idea of mistakes and like how often they happen and how we try to get better from them, so it can be a tricky thing sometimes, right? What inspired that piece?
Well, mistakes, everybody's going to make mistakes. And so, if you become an entrepreneur, open up a business, you have to be prepared to be totally dedicated to that because people will tell you, oh, it's a lot of work. But once you get in there, you realize it's a lot of work in the beginning. You're doing a lot of stuff. So you're bound to make mistakes and things are bound to happen. So I think that it's a good story to tell other current entrepreneurs or startups or future ones that, you know what, you're going to go in there, you're going to realize the massive amount of work. But if you're dedicated to be successful, you're going to put in those 60, 70 hours a week. You're going to work those nights and the weekends, and you're going to make mistakes, probably more so in the beginning than later on as you become seasoned. Here's really the key. Mistakes are okay. Even if you're a senior leader, you got to avoid the catastrophic mistakes. That can put you out of business real quick.
Oh, yeah.
So you're always learning. It's like a practice, like anything else. You're learning along the way. Even when you become seasoned and doing it for a while, you're always learning. And you should always be learning. Never stop learning. Expect mistakes, and that's just part of being an entrepreneur and running a business.
If you obviously, with the benefit of hindsight, right? If you could, through all the ups and downs that you've been through in your career, if you could go back to that Joe Catania entrepreneur that's just getting started, like earlier in his career, and if you could throw him some softballs or some advice, what kind of things would you tell him?
I would say have a plan before you get into it. Don't go in there willy-nilly and just kind of wing it fly by the seat of your pants. Have a plan, a written plan. Make sure you have some cash in the bank, not only for personal reasons, but also for the business. Some cash in the bank. Start slow. If you're working out of your home, that's fine. Or if you need a small office, do that. But be very frugal. Part of it also will be getting out there in the public, joining organizations, stopping people on the back, making contacts, and all that kind of thing. Take it slow, but work hard. And there will be a time, whether it be in a couple of years, a little less, a little longer. This was my thing back when I became a stockbroker, because I was just given a desk and a phone book, and that's it. So in your back of your mind, you have to say failure isn't going to happen. It is not part of the plan. More times than not, that will get you through. But really, what's the stat? 2 out of 3 new businesses end up going belly up, I think, after a couple of years. So it's hard.
Yeah.
So you have to be hungry, you have to want it, and you have to be a student of the game. Keep on learning and talk to people that are older than you, more experienced than you, that find out what they've done to build their business and why they're successful, and keep your nose to the grindstone. That's all you can really do. And more times than not, that'll get you through the hard times.
Man, you have me reminiscing over here, Joe. Like the mistakes that you said, I probably should have told myself. I would have told myself the same thing. Like, you don't need to purchase all the bells and the whistles. You need to worry about getting a client. You need to have a plan, and that maybe some of your corporate experience does not translate to your entrepreneurial experience. Like, it's not already built. Like, a lot of the systems and things that worked for you in the past may not work for whatever reason. Not worth the time trying to figure out why. Have a plan and be willing to pivot and adjust, and to just understand that, you have to focus on getting clients and think more about cash flow. You don't have sums of money coming to save you, right? Like, you got to make sure that you're watching the dial on that, and just in case clients don't come, right? Like, to make sure that you can stay in the game. I think a lot of people watching this are going to benefit from hearing you say this for sure. It's awesome.
Yeah, so also go along with that, just things that should be considered is keep a positive mind frame. Don't get negative. I mean, I'll be lying if I never said when I was starting out that, oh my God, what have I done? You're always going to have days like that. What have I got myself into? But, you got to keep a positive mind frame, hang around people that are positive, exercise, relieve yourself of that stress, do all the things that you can do to stay focused, positive, full of energy. Once again, know that you're going to make it at some point, no matter how hard things look or maybe how bad things look at one point or another. Tenacity would be the word.
So, Joe, I do want to spend some time on Catania Media Consultants. So you mentioned what you do, but I do want to go further. So tell us a little bit more about your practice.
Right. Well, I started because I had a lot of success, with the law firm for a long, long time. And so I wanted to be able to help out other people, professional associations, like, doctors, medical clinics, lawyers, law firms, that kind of thing, because they need more help than anybody else. Yeah. But a lot of times they kind of think that they know what they want to do, or they don't understand what needs to be done out there in terms of, marketing your business, doing some PR, getting branded and all that kind of thing. And so I go in there and usually talk to them about a market strategy. I don't walk in there and say, well, you got to buy this, you got to buy that. It's all about, telling them what they probably need, finding out who their target client is, and then doing a little research on myself and coming up with a plan for them to show them, okay, here's your target audience. This is how we can best get in front of them. You don't want to go out there and advertise and market willy-nilly and necessarily cast that big net, because in this point in time, you need to put your money in a place where it's going to be working most efficiently for you. And that's what I find out with a lot of these startup law firms or medical companies or even newer ones. And so the key is to get that digital footprint. And that's really what I do with most people that are new. Now, people that are established, been around for a while, sometimes they need a refresh in terms of their digital strategies. Usually I kind of dig a little bit more to find out how they're doing. And a lot of times they'll say, well, we've been doing this for a while, but it looks like, it helped in the beginning, but it's kind of stagnant. It's kind of topped out. And in those situations, I can help them out as too. Just kind of look at what they're doing. What can we do differently? Can we do an integrative approach? If they're already in digital, can they do some TV, radio, some billboards, depending on the business they're in? But I do a full assessment of their business, what they're doing now or not doing, and come up with a plan. I'm more about campaigns. Even if they're small ones in the beginning, get started, and you have to then build upon them later on. It's not about selling, walking in and saying, well, I want to sell you a website. I want to say, it's a campaign to show you how you can grow your business over a period of time. And that's how I walk into every situation.
And where do you find, and I find this interesting because I have a feeling there's some parallels between your niche and just, entrepreneurs in general. So I'm curious to hear from you. Where do you find a lot of founders or co-founders go wrong when they're going about like these strategies? Because you're in these firms all the time.
I think that, and I don't know, I'll probably get some of these guys pissed off, but a lot of them, you're talking about like lawyers, doctors, that kind of thing, right? Yeah. A lot of times they tend to be know-it-alls, and of course I work for a law firm and I can see that, and they have to have a certain demeanor and certain, tough guy about them sometimes. And of course, It's their business. They're proud of it. And, they sometimes don't want people to tell them what to do or what they need. And that's why I prefer to deal with people that know it's time to get help and be open-minded and flexible to listen on how we can grow things. Those are the people I have the greatest luck with and the most success with longer term. The ones that, you'll talk to them, they'll yes you to death, and they'll ghost you and you won't see them again. They're the ones that are suffering later on down the road because they think they know better, or they don't, I want to pay for this, I don't want to pay for that. But I mean, the old adage, to make money, you have to spend money, So that's been my feeling. They need to be open-minded. I understand. I always ask them what your budget might be. And so I try to work within that budget to get them started if it's a new business. Or if it's a larger business, I still ask them what their budget is and try to be most efficient putting together a campaign where they can see discernible results, either in their phone ringing, patients walking through the door, whatever it might be.
And so, I mean, you have a unique vantage point because, as I mentioned, so you're deep in your niche and you've done it for yourself, right? For your own firm. So what interests you in the space right now? Like what's exciting, whether it's digital, traditional, advertised, otherwise? What gets you excited right now?
Well, I would say in terms of something that's relatively new, streaming video. Right now, about 35% of people who view TV view streaming. The number of cord cutters, millions per year around the country. And we're heading to a point in time where, people are not going to want to pay for cable at all. And that's where we are right now. Actually, it's just going to get worse. I can see a time 5 or 10 years down the road that streaming video, streaming TV, connected TV, there's a number of different names, OTT, there's other names for it, will be the main way people view content. Yeah. And I think right now it's been around for maybe 5 years, a little longer maybe, but it's grown every year. Analytics have gotten better, the reach has gotten better, but you still don't have that audience that you would have in broadcast. It's still a lot bigger, and broadcast TV is still the king, even though their reign is kind of diminishing now. It has been for years. The beauty about connected TV, streaming video, is that you can come up with your client's profile and then create ads to serve up to that particular profile. So people are watching TV in their living room, and that person happens to fit your profile. You'll be able to serve up your ad to them. So really, it's sold on impressions, rather than a cost per point like broadcast. Yeah. And so whether you're advertising at night, it doesn't matter because daytime, whatever, it only be served up to people that have the profile you're looking for. So it's a great way to target people and have a better chance of conversions because you're not just finding people, you're finding people that need your service. I would say anybody who has not got into the realm of streaming video, connected TV, you may want to think about it. Even if at this point, dabble in it. Start getting involved because if you're not involved now, you will be involved at some point down the road if you're a multimedia advertiser.
And so you spoke from the advertising side of things. I mean, what about the other side of things, like just content creation? Do you feel that, lawyers, doctors, professionals should be creating more content, whether it's streaming or otherwise?
I think so. I mean, obviously, we provide those services as well. I have folks that, team members I work with that are graphic designers and that kind of thing. Yeah, I think, especially when it comes to the website, I mean, Google wants to see fresh material. They want to see videos. They want to see photos. They want to see awards and all kinds of things, and keep it fresh. Because if you don't do any new content, say in 6 months or 9 months, then Google is going to stop looking at you, or at least not looking at you the same. But it's always good to make sure content, more blogs, up-to-date blogs, very important, because you want to stay at the top of Google search under the most important keywords and phrases for you. Content is important, very important when it comes to websites. Yeah. Certainly, when you're doing ads, it's always good to do A and B testing to find out which ads, like we do in online display advertising, to find out which ads are working the best. You do that through analytics, and then that helps you use your money more efficiently.
Yeah, I'm a big fan, obviously, of creating content. But the idea here that I always try to tell people, especially professionals, right? Because that's the world we come from, or at least I come from and you come from, is that like the days of just, kind of sitting behind the big desk and having the corner office and then everybody come to you. Like, I mean, some of that's gone. Like people, when they look online, they want to see you. You have to have a digital footprint. Like, I don't care if it's blogs, website, whatever. If your digital footprint is non-existent and your competitor is, like, many times you're going to lose that business.
Right. And social proof is very important too, because there's so many people that are in the digital marketing business, just one-man shops that, hey, I can do this stuff, I'm going to go for it. It's important if you're the person buying the advertising and want to hire a digital marketing agency to look for the social proof on their site. What is their background and experience? Do they have a success story? Have they got an extra certificate in digital marketing, other things to educate themselves? Have they got awards of any kind because of their achievements in digital marketing and helping other businesses grow? That stuff's all important. If you're not doing it, you're not really differentiating yourself from the competition. So if you got two websites you're looking at, two people you're trying to decide which to go with, and then one person's got all these awards and the videos and testimonials are huge for clients, and the other person just has a lot of fluff, well, it's going to be easy to make the decision. That's the key, because there's zillions of websites out there, and almost every category of business is competitive. So what is your differentiator? What are you doing that someone is not? Why would someone who's looking for someone like you to help them manage their advertising and marketing, why would they hire you? What are you going to give them that the other guy won't? And that's what you got to do. That's the way you got to think. Well,
Joe, I just have to say it's been great having you back on the show. So excited to continue to promote this book, this book that we recently released together. I will have for the audience, everybody that's watching, we'll have a link in the show notes so that you can just click on it and pick up a copy. But I just have to ask, Joe, so what's next? I mean, what's next for you? What's next for Catania Media Consulting?
I think you kind of know, I'll jog your memory. It's starting my podcast with you guys.
Oh.
I'm hoping that's going to happen next month. I mean, originally I was,
don't tease me, Joe. I didn't bring it up because I didn't want you to tease me. Get my hopes up and all this. And I'm like, come on. And I don't want to get my hopes up.
I want to let you know I haven't forgot about you, and I'm still very eager. And I see the light at the end of the tunnel. So I'm shooting for next month for sure to get the ball rolling.
All right. Now I got it on tape, so or recorded or streamed, whatever. So we're in, and we'll make sure Matt, the whole team is on you on this one. I got a date.
I'll tell you also, I mean, you guys, with helping me publish my book, I mean, you guys did a very professional job. Your staff did a phenomenal job getting me through the process. I would recommend you guys to anybody else if they had interest in writing a book, about business and entrepreneurship. So I appreciate that a lot.
Fantastic. Thank you for that. And if somebody's watching this and they want to connect and follow up and learn more about Catania Media or just to follow your journey, what's the best way for them to do that?
Yeah. I mean, if they want to find out what I do, they can go to my website. It's cataniamedia.com. If they want to send out a message, discuss things, talk on the phone, or just, use JC at cataniamedia.com.
Fantastic. And we'll put all that information again in the show notes so that the audience can just click on it and head right on over. And speaking of the audience, if this is your first time watching a Mission Matters episode or engaging with the platform, we're all about bringing on entrepreneurs, executives, experts, and having them share their mission, their motivation, right? Why do they do what they do? Like being an entrepreneur, being an executive, like not easy things to do. How are they providing value into the world? Like if that's the type of content that sounds interesting or fun to you, hit that subscribe button because we have many more mission-based individuals coming up on the line and we don't want you to miss a thing. And Joe, looking forward to that podcast launch and to continue to promote this book with you and to see your continued success with Catania Media Consultants. So thanks again for coming back on the show.
All right. Thanks, Adam.